She's on the advisory board of the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. She works with the flowers, the bees, and the trees, and she's the bee's knees. Kimi Green, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jacques. I am so delighted to be here today. I want you to know I have loved every episode of Film Talk Weekly, and I think you, Liesette, Gary Farmer, Frank, have done an incredible job of putting together a real class act as far as a radio show about film and our communities and amazing things happening in our world.
Well, that's so nice to hear you're a listener. And I guess first we should start off talking about one of your favorite pet projects at the Santa Fe Independent Film Fest, which is the Green Earth program. And it's a program that I am super proud of. And just tell us more, please.
Well, the thing I feel is so important about the Green Earth program is there's no escaping. We are in climate change. There is so much environmental degradation happening that some of it's man-made and some of it is climate resulting from man-made changes. And one of the things I feel the Green Earth program really does is it really addresses not just the devastation that can be that is taking place in many places, but it also really highlights the heroes, the people who are on the ground making differences, people who are carrying forward ancient cultures to try and protect and restore the earth. And I find every time I watch a Green Earth film, I step out of the theater feeling so much more committed to our planet and to different ways that we can support and help these different types of projects that are taking place all over the world to help save not only our planet, but wildlife and really important cultures. And the other part that I think is amazing about the Green Earth program is it really evidences the collaboration required to put together these amazing films. I know some of the films have been literally 5 years of the film crew living in the village to be able to capture the important evolution of an issue that was incredibly destructive for their community.
Well, and you must be talking about Marmato.
Yes. I felt that was such a powerful David versus Goliath film, and there was no way it could have been made more poignant had it not been for the fact that the film crew committed so deeply to spending time to really literally understanding the history as well as the challenges and then the future challenges of the villagers. And it also really evidenced how corporations are so sophisticated at greenwashing as they steal people's lands or rights or resources.
Marmato played at the 2014 Santa Fe Independent Film Festival and was directed by Mark Greco and edited by Ricardo Acosta, who's had many appearances at the festival over the years. And you also know him because he edited Jason Silverman's movie Semben. And this is what it says about Marmato, the description of it. Colombia is the center of the new global gold rush, and Marmato, a historic mining town, is the new frontier. Filmed over the course of nearly 6 years, Marmato chronicles how the townspeople confront a Canadian mining company that wants the 20 billion in gold beneath their homes.
That summarizes it very well. And it was just beautifully done. It was one of my favorite films.
Now, maybe we should talk about a few of the films from the 2021 Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. I know many of them had, in the Green Earth program, of course, I know many of them had only played at Cannes or premiered in the US shortly before having these screenings in Santa Fe. So, I guess the first one maybe would be The Velvet Queen.
Yes. I felt the Velvet Queen, which I still really look forward to seeing the film in its entirety, was such a powerful film. What it was able to do was capture this incredible intimacy with the Tibetan plateau and with nature and with the wildlife and this amazing patience, which in and of itself was a communication that the cinematographer and I believe the film crew was basically doing, which was spending a lot of time waiting and just allowing and being. And one of the things that is so powerful about the Tibetan Plateau is it also really captures not only the beauty of this incredible plateau, which I have had the honor of being able to spend time in Tibet at the base of some of these mountains, and it is extraordinary, but it also captured the amazing grace and sort of amazing wisdom, simple wisdom, and great humor of the Tibetan people too. And it was a film that everyone I talked to who saw the film during the film festival, people were literally coming up to me and saying, Velvet Queen, I've seen thousands of films, and Velvet Queen was one of the best films I have ever seen. I think it was a triumph in every way.
High up on the Tibetan plateau, amongst unexplored and inaccessible valleys, lies one of the last sanctuaries of the wild world, where rare and undiscovered fauna lives. Vincent Munier, one of the world's most renowned wildlife photographers, takes the adventurer and novelist Sylvain Tesson in the forest of Siberia, and with him on his latest mission for several weeks. They explore these valleys searching for unique animals and try to spot the snow leopard, one of the rarest and most difficult big cats to approach.
Thank you so much, Jacques, for getting Velvet Queen for us.
Well, you know, I just think it's so important, and I think it speaks to the importance of films being in theaters. So, the film premiered at Cannes, and then you had a chance to see it at the New York Film Fest, then at the Santa Fe Independent Film Fest in October. And now it's theatrically released at Jean Cocteau locally. So, you know, it's the kind of movie that clearly you need to see on a big screen, and the people putting it out there understand that, and so I think that's a clear message of the importance of films like that being an event, and not just another TikTok that you can click on.
Right.
Now,
And
oh,
oh,
go ahead.
I was going to say, well, and speaking of needing to see films on a big screen, Velvet Queen reminded me of Last Shepherdess of the Glacier. And that film was so powerful, such an incredible cinematography, and not even just cinematography. It was almost like a personal pilgrimage with Searing, who is the last shepherdess in Ladakh, and a combination of climate change as well as changing priorities in villages, and even the hardiness and healthiness of villagers has really made this incredibly important tradition literally extinct. But the cinematography was beyond, it was and you could tell us a little bit more about how it was made, because I believe it was made by her brother. But that movie was so amazing, and I know not only myself but a number of my friends, actually we saw it twice because it
So
was such an astounding film.
that is a film that's now available online. It was from the 2016 Santa Fe Independent Film Festival, The Shepherdess of the Glaciers. In the Himalayan high plateaus, far from any human life, we accompany Searing, a shepherdess, throughout one year. Thanks to her brother's knowing camera, we will discover the moving and exceptional picture of a woman who has devoted her life to her cattle. In the far northern mountains of India, in Ladakh, Searing leads her flock of 300 sheep and pashmina goats to graze on the 5,500 mile-high Himalayan plateaus. Surrounded by this dry and desolate landscape, she lives with her cattle under the continuous threat of wolves and snow leopards. Her brother followed her during 1 year and filmed her exhausting work, both exceptional and moving pictures, in which we discover the maternal tie between her and her sheep. And we're talking with Kimi Green from the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival, and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. We're back with Kimi Green from the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. And we were just talking about a film that played in 2016 called The Shepherdess of the Glacier. And it was kind of in the greater discussion of the Green Earth program, which is an annual program at the fest. And Kimi, do you want to say anything else about The Shepherdess of the Glacier before we move on to talk about some of the other films that were in the program or have been in the program?
No, I'm fine. Thank you so much.
So, Becoming Cousteau was another big hit. It's from National Geographic. It's, of course, about Jacques Cousteau, the underwater explorer, the inventor of the scuba tank. But it centers around his environmentalism and activism. So I thought that was a really important film to have in the program. I'm wondering, do you share the same sentiment?
Jacques, I thought that was an excellent, excellent film. What's happening with our oceans is absolutely critical. And I think Jacques Cousteau is a phenomenal storyteller, but he also really brings people into the experience. And one of the quotes that really stood out to me that I loved, because it really describes the relationship we as humans have to have with nature. And he was asked by a journalist, what do you consider to be, the highest achievement in your life? And his response was essentially, I am not interested in myself. I am interested in everything outside of myself. And I thought that captures it in a nutshell, why our environment would benefit so hugely from us having our focus on everything outside of ourselves, not just ourselves.
The film's directed by Liz Garbus, who many of you know from The Ghosts of Abu Ghraib. A look at the life, passions, achievements, and tragedies surrounding famous explorer and environmentalist Jacques Cousteau, featuring an archive of his newly restored footage. So there was another film that you really loved over the years. I think this must have been about 2017, and it was part of Lee Daniel Presents. And do you want to remind me the title? Is it Wendell?
It's Look and See, a portrait, a portrait of Wendell Berry, who is an author and what I remember was such an interesting perspective is Wendell Berry never wanted to be the center of a documentary. He was approached many times, is my understanding. And Lee did this incredible cinematography work where he followed Wendell Berry rather than having Wendell Berry under the spotlight. And in the process, I think what was so poignant about Wendell Berry really talked about the power of nature and also the loss of nature that we are seeing and the plight of the American farmers and how farmers who were farmers because they had such a deep, loving relationship with the land were getting stripped of both their lands and that relationship by big agriculture corporations and big agri plans. One of the things that I think was so lovely was during that film was there was actually also you were seeing farmers who were returning to the actual true relationship of farming that actually left one feeling deeply hopeful. And also, I think for me, it helped me to understand in such a deep way that I hadn't before, really the challenges of our American farmers and really how much they have lost since industrialization of farming.
So that's probably such a great time to talk about some of the other work you do with the redwood trees in particular. So where can we start there? I know that you work with a company called Archangel, and I know you guys are planting redwoods all over California.
Yes, so it's actually a nonprofit corporation, a nonprofit. It's Archangel Ancient Tree Archive. They're actually celebrating their 25th anniversary this year, but David Millark and his family have basically been doing this work for 30 years. What we are seeing in farming has pretty much happened tragically with our forests. And at this time, the United States has lost 98% of our old growth forests. And our old growth forests are the most important forests that to help us bridge our ability to adapt to climate change. Not only are they just amazing trees to, to actually stand next to, but they are the most powerful air, water, and land soil purifiers. They often house hundreds, thousands of ecosystems within with one tree. And for instance, their carbon sequestration between redwoods and giant sequoias is no other tree can compete with the amount of carbon they can sequester. And so what happened was David basically realized unless we can figure out a way to save the genetics of these old growth trees, we will lose them because lumbering has taken out, logging has taken out so much, and whatever lumbering and logging does not remove,
Well, and Kimmy,
fires remove.
are they also intelligent, these trees?
These trees are phenomenally intelligent. And thank you for asking that, Jacques, because one of the most exciting things I witnessed on my last expedition with them in October was there's this way in which they can hook up a tree root to a tree like leaf so that you can actually kind of get the electrical current of a tree. And by attaching it to a keyboard structure, the tree will actually play music. And what was amazing, and it was one of those things, I'll be honest, I was like, well, I mean, maybe it was pre-recorded, who knows? But what was amazing was literally we had children who would touch the tree, in this case they were touching the baby trees initially, and as each different child would touch the tree would have a completely different musical scale. um, when we hooked it up to a very large sequoia known as the Three Sisters, it actually was able to kind of create a full concert effect with the musician Tom Wall, who is known as, his group is Cosmic Knot, but he was literally halfway up the tree in a climber's harness playing guitar, and the tree was playing back. And if you closed your eyes, you would think you were in a jazz piano bar, piano guitar bar somewhere in like an awesome city. Um, and what was really incredible too was when he did the same sort of performance out at Presidio, where it was with preschoolers. What was so interesting was as the preschoolers would touch the tree, it would it would make these lovely but more single noted melodies. And then there were two men who were volunteers and sponsors who were touching the tree, and the tree like literally opened up with like full on chords, almost like a actual, I wouldn't say Rachmaninoff, but you do you know what I mean? Like it was a very complex sound. And so one of the things we're hoping is in time is to really be able to show trees have absolute, they're absolutely intelligent. They, are not inanimate. They're thinking, they're communicative, they're actually communicating with us probably all the time. We just don't know how to receive that communication.
Well, and they're ancient too. How old are some of these trees?
So the trees, for instance, the trees that we planted at Sequoia Crest were literally the babies of the waterfall tree, which unfortunately burned in the Castle Fire in 2020, which destroyed a, possibly up to 10% of old growth giant sequoias in California. And that waterfall tree is basically over 3,000, is estimated to be between 3,000 and 3,200 years old, which is so ancient when you think about it. Some of the redwoods we've worked with are definitely in that 2,000 to 3,000 range. Methuselah, which is the world's oldest tree, which is a bristlecone tree in White Mountains, that tree is 4,875 years old. And it is an area that we're hoping we'll be able to also save some of the genetics of some of the oldest bristlecones too, before they end up, basically potentially getting burned in forest fires.
God, that is really amazing. And I hope we get to talk a little bit more about the giant redwoods and giant sequoias and what you're doing with Archangel when we return. I'm talking with Kimi Green of the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. She's on the advisory board, and she's a big supporter of the festival's Green Earth program, which shows so many environmental films and films about animals, things that, if you're looking for a more sustainable Earth, then there's going to be a lot of selections in there for you. And we'll be back with more with Kimi Green. We're back. We're talking with the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival Advisory Board member, Kimi Green. And we were just talking about Archangel, about the giant redwoods, the giant sequoias. And it's pretty fascinating, this work you're doing. And I couldn't think of a better proponent for the festival's Green Earth program than somebody who's out there working with these giant ancient trees.
Well, thanks so much, Jacques. And I think that the work that Archangel Ancient Tree Archive is doing is so important. Just so you know, there are some film projects on the horizon, so it may be something that can even become a more publicly known project in the future, and I will definitely keep you posted. In the meantime, one of the things that I am excited that really evidences this type of deep collaboration I love in the field of not only just climate change and environment, but how communities and students come together is there is a planting that we're now in the process of putting together that would be in Oakland, California, and would be incorporating students for plantings of trees in some of the more challenged communities where they've had a lot of environmental degradation and are also struggling with resources. And what's so wonderful is we're seeing interest from, get this, the Santa Fe Motorcycle Club wants to become part of, putting down their arms and picking up their shovels to help save the planet. We also have a Buddhist Sangha very interested in participating, a number of different other types of organizations, but we feel like this bringing together of full communities to actually start restoring their capacity to have resilience for climate change, but also to restore important trees to their communities it's such a joy and it's so exciting. Even though it's a lot of hard work, it's incredible.
Well, thank you for that work you're doing, and I commend you for really taking an active stance in this community as well as the larger community here on Earth when it comes to working to sustain these trees and keep them. And so there's also the youth program at the Santa Fe Independent Film Fest. You've been a big supporter of that. Do you want to say anything about the importance of film festival having opportunities for youth?
Yes, I first of all, I think that one of the most important thing anyone can be doing right now is helping our youth identify their voice, empower them to be able to express their voice. And I definitely would love to talk about what we're doing at Santa Fe Independent Film Festival for students and youth. But one other project that I've been working on that I think really ties in the the theme of why we support youth filmmaking is CAVU. And CAVU, which is Climate Advocates Voices Unidos, has been a major component in helping communities across the world tell their stories, but especially here in the Southwest by utilizing aerial film. So there's this incredible film component. And what they do is they basically help communities put together the types of communication tools they need to be able to make a difference. They have a program called Climate Innovation Challenge, which is very exciting because it's taking that same principle, but bringing it back to youth and to help children become much more resilient, creative, feel that they have community and that they actually have a potential for a future, even though they are growing up under the pall of climate change. And what's also exciting about this program is that it is kind of one of those seed programs where it started in New Mexico and now it's actually become international. And what they do is they've created an incredible STEAM curriculum which incorporates sciences and the arts and therefore can actually be used right within
What
schools.
is a STEAM curriculum?
So, you've heard of STEM have you heard of STEM, which is a mathematics, sciences program? STEAM is a similar type of program, but what they incorporate is also the arts. And what's great about this type of curriculum is it isn't an additional burden for teachers who already have such huge workloads, especially during COVID. It is a way that they can actually meet all their teaching requirements, but actually have a very innovative, engaging, interactive program that they can work with. And so these programs basically help students, number one, understand, okay, this is what climate change is. It's not this big boogeyman, but these are the impacts that we are going to see. And then it really creates the opportunity for students to find their entry point and how they could be part of the change or the voice. So for instance, if you're a student and you're someone and they start from third grade to 12th grade, but you're a student who wants to be a lawyer, you're encouraged to look at how your work could actually change, your advocacy work could actually change legislation. If you want to be a gardener, how does that help? If you're someone who wants to make films, here are some tools to do so. And then the students do a 3-minute video, and that's in a contest. And actually, Santa Fe Independent Film Festival has been supportive of the contest in the past for student awards. Um, what's great is then the top awards actually end up getting seen by legislators, for instance, in New Mexico, municipal leaders and business leaders.
We're talking with Kimi Green from the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. Kimi, thank you so much for your work with the youth, both with the festival and with CAVU. I think you're creating so many exciting opportunities for young people. Now, I'm wondering, maybe what about the future for young people in filmmaking in New Mexico, in Santa Fe in particular? I know that Gay Dillingham was recently appointed the chair of the Santa Fe Film Commission, and I think that's a positive development. Is there anything you want to say about Gay, and can you tell us what she's like?
Gay is Santa Fe Film Commission is very lucky to have Gay. Gay is not only a very innovative thinker, a incredibly talented filmmaker, but she's also a leader who has such deep roots and commitment to our community. And she sees it from all angles. I also think she is incredibly sophisticated. What would I call, like, she brings everyone together. So I think, first of all, I'm thrilled that Gay is heading our Santa Fe Film Commission. I think for youth opportunities, there's a lot of ways to support youth. If you don't mind, I wanted to just round back to one thing. If folks are interested in getting engaged in CAVU, there are many ways you could do so. You can go to their website, and I will list that at the end of the show. And they have sponsorships that the community can engage in as individuals and or businesses or organizations to help with the awards for students around the world. And the other component is basically to join the virtual event, which will get out. It's on April 28th, I believe. So I'll make sure that all that information gets out to the community. And thank you for any type of contributions you can make, participation, etc. And I think CAVU is exciting because it's really growing that student voice. I think how we are doing that with IAIA, with New Mexico School for the Arts, and Jacques, you can talk to us a little bit more. I know we've had, like, I remember there was a year we had Navajo students who came in to witness some of the filmmaking opportunities.
Yeah, I really think it's a beautiful thing that young people get these opportunities. They get the opportunity to see Oliver Stone speak at the Lensic, or to hear Cassidy Freeman doing a master's discussion, and countless other things that can maybe get them excited about film and make future filmmakers here. I also want to give a big up to Pam Pierce at Silver Bullet Productions. I know their mission is all about putting the cameras in the hands of Native youth, and I think that's a really worthwhile effort. So, while there are some chances for young people to get involved in Santa Fe, I think it's really, I really admire that you're taking it upon yourself to create more. We are about to go to a break. I'm pleased to be talking with advisory board member Kimi Green from the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. She's also with Archangel, working to save redwoods, the giant redwoods, as well as the giant sequoias. And we'll be back with more. We're back. We're talking with Kimi Green from the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. We talked a lot about the Green Earth program in October. We talked about Kimi's work with Archangel and her work with the giant redwoods and sequoias, plus her work with filmmaking youth with the organization CAVU. So, Kimi, I think maybe we should get back and talk a little bit more about Archangel and the redwoods. And is there a website that people can go to donate or find out more about this project?
Yes. So Archangel, if you'd like to find out more about Archangel Ancient Tree Archives, amazing work in saving the genetics of our top champion trees, which are going to be very critical to us surviving and potentially thriving after climate change. You can visit them at www.ancienttreearchive.org. And it's all one word, ancienttreearchive.org. And I just encourage folks, learn more about this project, get involved. We do plantings across the country, around the world. And so we are hoping that this work will only grow over time. The goal that currently Archangel has is that by 2050, with partners all over the world, we'll be able to at least be able to plant 50 million trees that are old growth trees. And I think that's it for Archangel. One of the things too I wanted to note, Jacques, is what's exciting is that both of these organizations have a film component. So hopefully we'll be able to see more about their work in the future.
Well, and you were featured on CNN recently with, before we finish, maybe you should mention a little bit about the CNN coverage of Archangel, because I think that's a big deal. That's national news.
Yes, so CNN, this is actually very exciting because it is a huge part of climate change, and I'm hoping other organizations will get involved. But CNN has invested a huge amount of time and energy into creating what they called the Call to Earth Day. It's November 10th. It'll be November 10th every year is my understanding. And it's always during, I believe it's during or right before the COP, our climate meetings. The whole, the international climate meetings.
This is the G20 conference?
No, the COP conferences. And so one of the things that is awesome is CNN's goal, similar to what CAVU wants to do, is doing with their program, Climate Innovation Challenge, is to really highlight all the ways in which, even if governments haven't moved as quickly on climate change, businesses have, students have, communities across the world have all been starting to do climate change, mitigation, remediation, restoration, et cetera, that hopefully governments will follow. But the idea is CNN wants it to be both an inspiring day for the whole planet about what we actually are doing about climate change, and then a big kind of reminder to governments like, hey, step up to the plate. And so we were very excited that we were one of the major organizations that they featured as like a top 50 to 70 organizations featured.
Well, congratulations. I know that's a big deal when it comes to getting the word out about social issues and environmental activism. It's not always the easiest thing to do, and I think you've got a very special talent for that.
Well, thank you, Jacques. And I do want to say I give a shout out to CNN for their forward thinking on this too, and community mobilization internationally. And one thing I actually, speaking of films and opportunities, I want to first say congratulations on Santa Fe Film Institute's Film Awards. I love what you all are doing. I think it's an incredible program. I think it will only grow. And it even though it may not be huge grants, I know the filmmakers who receive it is such a huge, it's such an inspiration to them. Speaking of inspiration. And I also want to really acknowledge, how much I love Imogene Hughes. I am so sorry she is no longer with us, and I so appreciate her gracious support of the Santa Fe Film Institute and filmmakers to come.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the work that you've done on the granting committee for the regional grant. And I mean, I think it's exciting that this year filmmakers locally in New Mexico can apply for up to 5,000, and filmmakers in the surrounding states can apply for up to 2,000. And plus there's the Imogene Hughes Award for college students, and the Santa Fe Film Institute scholarship for high school student, or I think it's for a single high school student. And so I think these opportunities are really gonna shine a light on the kind of talent that we have locally.
Yes, I not only will it shine a light, but like I said, one of the most important things that even small grants, it's almost like it gives people this incredible sense that what they're doing is meaningful. And so again, thank you so much to Santa Fe Film Institute, to Imogene Hughes, and to all the great work that you all are doing to make filmmaking a really dynamic part of our not only Santa Fe and the New Mexico communities, but regionally.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, I think, positive experience working with you, with Marisa Juarez, Alton Walpole, Kirk Ellis, and so many of the other members of the grant committee, Nathan Nee, and kind of coming up with the criteria and then now awarding these projects. And there's some really amazing projects. So I'm excited for what 2022 will bring, and us being not just the most important place to show your film, but also the biggest givers for New Mexico film grants.
Well, I'm happy to help support you all in getting there any way you can.
So we talked a little bit about Gay Dillingham. We talked a little bit about um, some of your work. Maybe with the remaining time we have left, we could kind of delve into what makes the environment and environmental activism so important to you. Why is it that you feel drawn to create a better world in the future? Um, and you know, what is it within you that makes clean water, clean air, animals, and plants important to you?
Well, thank you. And I wish I could just say it as simply as Jacques Cousteau did, which is because I am not at all interested in me. I'm just interested in what's outside of me. Um, I think that what is true is I do feel we are a system. There's a wonderful phrase I heard recently in a conversation about what it is that nature, humans, the universe, and it's called quantum entanglement. And the idea is that we're all linked together. What all actions are extraordinarily meaningful in how we touch each other, how we destroy each other, where we allow growth to blossom, where we create fear and diminishment. All of that is kind of, it's everywhere. And one of the things I think that really struck me early on, my first foray into the environment was a ad hoc group called Surfers Against San Onofre, and literally was a group of California high school, college kids, surfers, who put out pamphlets and tried to bring community awareness to how this nuclear power plant on one of the most beautiful wildlife sanctuaries in Southern California was a horrible idea. And indeed it was. And unfortunately, there was a lot of wildlife that died, let alone pollution, et cetera. Ironically, when I went to college, I ended up going to college next to Diablo Canyon. So I actually was it was before it was built, again, on a wildlife refuge and an earthquake fault. So I ended up really participating during my last 2 years in college at a first stop Diablo Canyon. And then ironically, I ended up in New Mexico, downstream from Los Alamos National Labs.
Kimmy,
And
I think you've got to come back on to tell us the rest of your story. But thank you so much. This was Kimi Green from the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival, and we talked about the Green Earth program.